Yeah, the reason we're doing this meeting is because we ran out of time in our team meeting, and so I kind of hijacked Mark's meeting. But I think this is good. The reason I wanted to have this meeting was a lot of you guys go around and what's the first question everybody asks you? Hey, how's the market doing? I'd like to have you all have a very intelligent answer to that question, because that could be the difference between you winning and losing. In addition to the data and all the other items, the legal update that Mark's going to tell you about, I think understanding where the market is at is very important. You need to be able to articulate it to somebody, and it'll be the difference between winning and losing that customer. If they talk to you and go, wow, this person really knows their stuff, I'm going to hire them, or I'm going to refer them to my friends, family, or colleagues. That's what you want, right? And then make an impression. All right. Well, how many of you got here, Olivia? 12. Do you guys want to wait a few more minutes or get going?
It's up to you guys.
Mark?
Ellen?
Yeah.
Ellen, Mark?
Yeah,
I do have a question. The only thing I'd like to make sure is addressed is from month to month, what's happening with the townhouse and the condo market. Are you seeing improvements? Are we, are people staying away from that? And also at some point, I would love for somebody to show us how we gather that data from the MLS.
Okay. I mean, I have
Thank you.
I did an analysis for last month in year over year, but it tells a pretty good story.
Awesome. Thank you.
But Mark can go into more detail. I did a minimal graph.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. We got 14 participants. Olivia, should we go? Is anyone else in the waiting room, or?
No, that's everyone right now, but I'm sure more people will pop in.
All right. Let's get started. Well, for those of you on the call, I'll say you're in for a treat. If you're going to get everything, you're going to get a lot. So I'm going to plow through. Well, as we all know, this has been a trying year. We've got the coronavirus threat, sheltering in place, coping with online schooling. My daughter just got caught playing video games during class again. I need to block it on the router. I haven't had time. It's really frustrating with the online schooling, at least for me and my family. Social distancing, still find it awkward to just keep dancing around people. We have social unrest in our country on multiple issues. And also in many ways, our nation is divided on a lot of issues as well. And thank goodness the wildfires and smoking conditions are over for now, but hopefully they don't spark up again. But I mean, talk about challenges, we got them all. Real estate trends, as you guys all know, about March, April, we had about 4 to 6 weeks where we're a little bit frozen, like what's going on. But eventually, luckily, we all kind of got back to it, which is great. There was a temporary halt of the city center. Everywhere I've traveled in the world, the city center was always the hottest real estate. Would that be Bangkok, Shanghai, KL, you name it, right? I mean, the city center, Paris, right? Those are the most expensive places to live usually, and very dense. And there's a temporary halt on that right now with the pandemic, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Out-of-state migrations. I have a lot of friends, even my neighbor is moving out of the area down to San Diego. It's really sad. Folks are just, they don't need to be here. They were going, well, I just have a better life down there. I got a bigger house. I got family nearby. I've got less stress. If I don't need to be in the area, why not go out of state and move somewhere else? And most of the drivers are family, right? Closer to family. And then there's a big flight from San Francisco. These are some of the trends I've noticed. So Alan, what is going on? For those of you that took Business Economics 101, econ is one of my favorite classes. So this is basically a supply and demand graph. On the y-axis, I'm mapping rental and home prices of San Francisco. And on the Y chart, I'm mapping available rental, condominium, and townhome units in San Francisco. In typical, in this chart, let's just say that line represents the supply of homes. And this line represents the demand of homes. Okay, so this is what the market was before COVID. Okay, this is the state before COVID. So, and also this is the quantity of homes that was being sold and the price of those homes. Okay, so let's just call that the steady state, the equilibrium. Pre-COVID is equilibrium. Okay, that's our base case. Now, what is going on? Well, with everything going on, and Mark and I both know this because we have our listings in San Francisco, there's a big migration out of the city center. So the demand has shifted downward. So this demand curve is now shifted down. And why? I mean, it's pretty obvious. If you live in the city, I was in the city this weekend, it's a little more lively than it has been, but I mean, you're paying astronomical prices to be in the city, to enjoy city life, to be around, to have entertainment, et cetera, and be close to work. Well, a lot of those things are gone now. You don't need to go to work, and there's no nightlife. There's nothing going on. You're stuck at home, and you're sheltering in place in this tiny little condominium that you weren't ever planning to stay in every day in your life, right? So that demand has definitely shifted down. People start moving out of the city because astronomical prices. So as the quantity temporarily will drop, I mean, the prices will drop as well, but you'll see that the supply starts increasing for both of these homes. So this supply line is pushing out. So now we have this new increase in quantity, and we have a lower on pricing. I know this is going fast, but this is basically supply and demand at its finest. With an increase in demand and an increase in supply, prices drop. But think about anything that you can get your hands on. If you kids ever play with fidget spinners, in the beginning, oh my gosh, fidget spinners, what a big deal. I can't get my hands on them. It's like $10 each. And then when they came out of style, it's like 50 cents each at 7-Eleven, right? It's all about supply and demand. When it's highly coveted, price is up. When there's too much supply of it, price is down. And that's simple as that. That's what's happening in the San Francisco rental and housing market, especially condos and townhomes. Single family is holding pretty well, actually, but that's what's going on there. And again, increased supply means lower prices, and that's on the rental as well as the home sale price. So if you're looking for a deal, if your clients are looking for a deal and they always want to live in the city, condominiums are where the deals are right now in San Francisco. Some other government interventions that we some of us may or may not participate in. There was a Paycheck Protection Program rolled out, EIDL for small business, forbearance, this idea of being able to kind of defer or delay or pay a lower amount of your mortgage. That's a new concept that's kind of keeping things afloat right now. A lot of tenant relief. If you're impacted by COVID, a lot of counties have rolled out, or cities, a buy or pass on your rent. Of course, interest rates are yet again at all-time lows, and this has definitely spawned a lot of buyers that are coming out. And of course, stimulus and unemployment benefits are also keeping things floating as well. So all in all, the government has done a decent job of basically pumping liquidity and literally benefits right into the bank accounts of as many folks as they can. And it's keeping things propped as best they can. 30-year fixed mortgages. If you ever talked to your parents, oh my gosh, and you guys are so lucky. In the 80s, we used to pay 17.5% interest rate. Well, it's true, because that's what they were paying. And these rates have just kept going down and down and down and down. And now it's at, this is 30-year fixed at 2.9%. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous how cheap money is. If your client has liquidity and you're going with some of the big banks, increments of 250K up to $1 million, they can buy down the interest rate as much as 0.5%. So I've seen clients with a lot of liquidity get as really low rates with some of these bigger banks. I mean, obscene rates. Yesterday I saw 2.375 on a 30-year fix. I mean, ridiculous. I've seen 1.875 on a 10-1 arm or 7-1 arm. Ridiculous rates. This is literally free money, folks. I mean, free money. It's really scary, and that's why so many buyers are out and about. Unemployment rates, I mean, I've tracked these numbers religiously, but see the jump, see the pop. Usually hanging around 4.3, 3.9, and then right around March, jumped to 5.5, 16.4, and now it's tapering down a little bit here. Now, I want to make a note. The people buying homes are not, unfortunately, not the folks that are on this list. I mean, these are the people that are small businesses or work at small business and heavily impacted by this. The tech workers are fine. I mean, they know how to weather a virtual learning environment, and they have no issue at all. They're still employed, and their stocks are still doing very well. Those are the ones buying homes right now. NASDAQ, this is where the bulk of your client's down payment comes from. At all-time highs. I'm scratching my head. I don't understand. I jumped in here, bought a bunch of stock, and I saved some money to buy some more, and then suddenly it popped up. I'm like, what is going on? So I stopped. I couldn't buy anymore. It's just insane. So the NASDAQ, this is not representative of the stock market, of the economy, but this is where most of your tech client stocks are, and they're all back up to all-time highs. So if your clients are tech folks, they got money, and they've got their down payments, they're back. They were nervous here, of course, but they've got a lot of equity right now. They can down on a house, and those are the ones that are buying those homes right now. What are buyers looking for? So buyers they all want a larger home. You guys probably heard this. And By a larger home, more bedrooms, right? More, and I need an office, maybe 2 offices. I need more, just more space, period. You'll hear that. But there's even more, which is big backyard. It's not good just a big home anymore. If you're like me, you got 3 rascal kids, it's like go to the backyard and play. I mean, our most favorite moment of the day is when 5 o'clock rolls around, they're done with school. It's like go outside to the cul-de-sac and play. Like get off your video games and go outside. That's what we make them do. And they go out there and hang out there until 7. Or the backyard, right? Put a trampoline. I had a friend of mine buy an inflatable pool for $750, and he said it was the best money he's ever spent. So people are stuck at home. They need a big backyard. This is a big requirement right now. And for good reason, right, with the pandemic. And buyers are picky as ever. They don't want to do any work. They've got their hands full with their kids, their work. I mean, they're all stressed out. They don't want to manage a contractor, and certainly they don't want a contractor to come in during COVID, right? Who knows who's coming in and out. So they want a move-in ready home. If the house is move-in ready, that house is going to be competitive. It's going to fly. And these are what the buyers are looking for during these new times. You guys probably all know this. Trends, like I mentioned, migration away from center. Those condominiums in San Francisco used to be high price, high flying, but people are getting out of there. Being in the downtown is not necessarily cool anymore. People are trying to migrate to suburban cities where they get more space. The East Bay is hot. Imagine that, right? Typically, I've never seen a market where the center people are running away from and they're going to the outskirts. I've never seen that before. After this call, I got to go to Pleasanton and Danville, and I've been spending a lot of my time out there because a lot of people are looking out there, and there's good reason, because for 1.3, 1.4, you can get a newer house, 3,000 square feet in Pleasanton, and good decent backyard. I mean, why pay 1.3 for? I'm sorry to say this. I mean, some of the houses that I have on the market right now, right? 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,200 square feet, right? And it's older, right? 60 years old. Folks are, I don't need this. I'm going to go out to East Bay. And then the southern markets, they continue to do all right. The Peninsula and South Bay are actually doing very well. But the condo and townhome market is struggling. Those two, I have a condo in San Mateo right now. There are 88 condos in San Mateo for sale, 1 bed, 2 beds, and then 44 2-bedrooms. That is a lot of competitors, right, for that property. So it's been a little troublesome with that particular property. Another supply and demand chart. So let's say equilibrium here, single family market after COVID, and this is what everyone wants, right? Oh, sorry, pre-COVID, this is the base case. Supply and demand's here, quantity pre-COVID, price pre-COVID. So what's going on with single family? So they had a different effect. They had a reduced supply, right, which is opposite of San Francisco. With the reduced supply, you got a decrease in quantity and an increase in price. Simple as that. This is how supply and demand works. If you have an increase in supply, and you're going to have a decrease in quantity and increase in price, so then all this gets worse. You have an increase in demand now, right? An abnormal increase in demand of single-family homes given the pandemic, and so that's also still reduced quantity. People are adding more to the market, but further increasing prices as well because of the demand for single-family homes is so high, and the interest rates and the stock market. All of these things play into this. But that's what's going on. That's why you're seeing single-family homes are crazy. I had a Santa Teresa house last week had 28 offers, and I was second place. I was so upset because I didn't give them 2 months rent back. And the following few days later, I found another house in that area. I pounced on it on day one, and I put in a preemptive offer. I saw it, preemptive offer that night, because I called the agent. I said, "You taking preemptive offers before the offer day?" He goes, "Well, if you bring it, I have to present it." I said, "That's the answer I want to hear." And I got lucky and saved the buyer probably $50,000, because if it went on the market, it would have been more. I was surprised they took our offer, actually. But that's what's happening in the East Bay right now. If you notice, your clients want to see a house in Pleasanton, San Ramon, Dublin, Danville. By the time the weekend comes, it's gone. And it's because people are dropping preemptive offers. And I don't believe that East Bay agents have ever seen the kind of stuff that we see out here. They really should save the house for the offer date if it's hot. Wait a week, because they'll make more money for their sellers. But they're getting teased by these preemptive offers. So if you're a buyer's agent and the listing agent's hemming and hawing about the offer date, you've dropped the offer. Just those of you that took my buyer class this week have learned. All right. And talking about stats, I've just looked at Santa Clara County, and I compared year over year. This was, what was this? This was end of September-ish, I think, is when I put this out. So this is really September data. At that time, there's 950 active single families. That's 1.8% drop from last year at the same time. The active days on market was 48, which is pretty high actually, because not everything's moving, right? I mean, if it's a smaller house, those aren't moving, or 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, or 1,100 square feet. People aren't really loving those. So there's still homes that are sitting around. But look at the pending units. It's, the pending and solds are overtaking the actives. So, I mean, we don't really have that many months of inventory, right? This is for the last quarter. So, I mean, that is a huge increase of pending units and also sold units. So these two together are destroying what's out there. So this is not enough, right? Not enough. Now, the ones that are selling, like I said, the houses that are nice, that people love, it's faster by 29%. So 10 days on market for the houses that are hot. If you have a house that's nice, has no objections, remodeled, it's going to fly. It's going to fly quick. There is also an increase of course, Q1, there's a lot of canceled, withdrawn listings due to COVID. And there was a 10% increase in Q2 and a 9% increase in Q3. So there's still homes that are not selling and they'll take them off or expire as well. I mean, they're still out there. And again, probably the types that aren't fitting what people want. Condominium townhome market, increase in inventory of 678 to 35%. 45 days on the market and counting, up 11% at the same time last year. Pending units. So the data doesn't show all doom and gloom. I mean, these two numbers together are actually not awful. They seem to be picking up a little bit, Yvette, to answer your question. There's some movement. I didn't break down condos and townhomes. I would imagine townhomes are doing better than condominiums.
Okay.
And so the data got better, I think, in Q3. I think Q2 was pretty rough, but they're starting to overtake a little bit. And then 14 days on market's also down as well. And definitely, again, similar trends on cancellation. But also Q3, maybe a lot of people took their houses off the market, right? And they're resting until next year. That's another possibility as well. All right, outlook from here on out is, I think work from home will go to at least June 2021. You'll hear that from Google and other companies. Likely to similar trends in 2021. At the KW national level, everyone's very concerned that there's a recession around the corner. And definitely we're hanging on delicately by a balance with all the programs and the stimulus being put in. But unfortunately, the world's not fair, right? The people in the Bay Area that work in tech are going to be fine. It's almost like a little bubble here, right? But the folks that are small business owners or small business, those folks are going to struggle. But those aren't the people buying homes anyways, right? They were never the ones buying homes, unfortunately. So I think there'll be similar trends next year. The vaccine, obviously, key factor. When are we all going to be able to get that and get back to normal? Monetary policy, if it holds, I imagine it's going to hold the same. Also, the change in president, is that really going to affect monetary policy in the stock market and all that? That's a big question mark that I don't know the answer to. The health of the nation, right? Even if the Bay Area is doing really well, if the nation's in a recession, then it's going to drag us into a recession. I mean, there's really no ifs, ands, or buts about that. So it's something we need to monitor. If KW is right and they're saying that the rest of the nation is going to be hurting, then we will be hurting too. And the NASDAQ, of course, really, really important there. All right, that's all I got. Any questions?
Alan, on the stats that you pulled, those are for the entire county, right?
Santa Clara County, yes.
So understand that there's going to be different parts of the county are going to have different elements. So it's important that you guys, when you're doing your evaluations, understand that you do the search or do the research for your specific geographic area. I know I'm in Cambrian, and there are very few active homes in Cambrian right now. I was talking to an agent. He was debating, should we put a house on the market at the beginning of the next year? And you run an active, just run the actives and pendings in a zip code. And we saw that in that area, there's nothing on the market. So there's no better time to go on the market than when there's no competition. Now's the time. So be sure that you're looking area by area for those statistics, to understand what's really going on. Yeah. Cambrian, where the schools are good, is really hot right now.
Yep.
Single family homes in area 14 that go to Branham High School, Lee High School, they're crouching up into the 1.7, 1.8. Those prices are not there yet, but the sale prices are, I think, are going to be there. So if your buyers are looking in that area, be sure to be counseling them properly and properly setting their expectations.
Absolutely. Anyone else have any questions? All right, Mark, I'm gonna hand it back to you.
All right, right on, Alan. Thank you very much, Alan. That was a great presentation.
No problem. Thank
I
you.
think it edified some of the things that I was thinking was going on, so that's good to hear. Today we listened in on the legal update given by Gov Hutchins regarding the future of legally going on with our industry and some of the issues that are affecting us and how they're going to be affecting us. I'd like to talk a little bit about that, and then we can talk a little bit more about the statistics and how to generate those statistics for your local areas. I mean, mostly with regards to the legal update, revolved around COVID situations, revolved around more pertaining to folks that are dealing with property management. I know many of you might be property owners or landlords as well. So they talked about evictions and those processes. And I mean, currently, they're going to start the eviction processes for people that have not been paying the rent. They're having a couple of programs or a couple of avenues that they're following depending on timing. So whether people have been delinquent between March and I believe it was March and September, there's one set of rules, and then the separate set of rules is going to go into effect for those that are affected from October through February. And also, again, the eviction courts will be starting up again at the end of this period in pretty much full force. People that have not been paying rent, their rent is not forgiven. It's still owed. They just can't be evicted. So, you know, as things come back online, landlords are going to have to negotiate with their tenants should they come back online, or maybe they'll have to go through that process and re-rent their units. There's some laws with regards to evicting tenants in general. In the past, you had a little bit more flexibility, especially if you were owning a single family home, as opposed to apartments always conform to a more stricter guideline. In California, with regards to evictions, you had to have a fault. But now the laws are changing in that it is extending through to single family homes. You can't have no fault evictions anymore. And also some rent controls, depending on the counties, might be taken into effect towards single family homes. You can still evict folks for 4 main reasons in California. Obviously, if you want to occupy the property as a primary residence, a landlord can evict the tenant in order to move in, and it's to move themselves in, or parent, son, a parent, child, or an immediate family member can work in that regard. If they wanted to, if the property was decrepit or in need of major repairs, they can also force an eviction, and then in order to conduct those repairs. Now, keep in mind, cities might have more strict guidelines with that. I know the city of San Francisco is infamous for, if you do that, you have to get the old tenant, give them the right to come back to the unit at the same price, which is why people don't do that. But that's the law in San Francisco. Said other parts of the state are going to vary. And again, you may want to confirm and point your clients towards having a real estate attorney answer any detailed questions, because the laws are rather complex, and you don't want to be responsible for the advice that you give in those types of situations. We have some different forms coming on with regards to square footage, like a nice little chart and graph. The bottom line is we don't want to be responsible for the numbers that are being put out there. So basically, when it comes to disclosing the square footage of the property, wherever the source that you're getting the information from. Now, keep in mind, if you want to go out there and measure it yourself and put the number there, okay, go ahead and do that. I don't recommend doing that because you don't want the liability. But There's all sorts of sources out there for that information. You have the county records, you have a previous appraisal, you have the seller might have measured. So there's going to be a new form coming out. It's going to have a nice chart. You just put the numbers in from whatever source, and people sign off on that. And again, there's always a nice disclaimer absolving us of any liabilities deriving from those numbers for obtaining those numbers. I think those are the most relevant, I guess, legal changes that came out of our discussions. Yeah, I think that's about that. Now, Yvette mentioned at the beginning of the class that you were concerned about the month-to-month performance of the condo and townhouse market. Yvette, did you have a specific area that you wanted to analyze?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to analyze the area over off of Trade Zone, Lundy area. I was just really curious because you've got the BART that went in over there. There's some positives that happened in that area, and I was just really curious as to, you know, what that particular area was doing, because I am actually going after a few townhomes in that area. So in particular, it was 95131 on Autumnvale Avenue.
All right. Sorry, I forget what you mentioned. All right, so I'm here I'm sharing my screen. Can you guys all see it? It should
Yes.
have the matrix residential search. It should be a fairly familiar screen to all you guys. But yeah, this is the basic MLS search. Okay, so we're looking for data for the condominium townhouse market in 95131. That's the Berryessa area, yeah? But we can just do it by zip code.
Correct. I was particularly looking at 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, but
3-bedroom condos are not quite as prevalent as the 2 bedrooms, so we'll have a lot more 2 bedrooms. But let's do like just an overall general breakdown of the condo market in that area. I mean, if we're looking at 95131 zip code, we have active condominiums and townhomes. We have 15 currently on the market right now. If we switch over and look at the active contingents and pendings, we have 13. So that's fairly 1-for-1, which is a signal of a seller's market. You pretty much almost have a buyer for every listing that's coming on the market. Does that make sense?
yes.
If we break it down to the 3-bedroom markets, I think we're going to have probably, oh, they have some, right? They have 7 3-bedroom condo townhomes in 95131 on the market right now. 8 of which are pending. So it's a hot item.
Okay.
It's a hot item. You should be able to sell it fairly quickly within the average days on market. If we look at what's pending, right, couple about 30 days or less.
Yeah.
And they're going between 650 and 1.1, but depending on, I think the 650 is going to be a small unit. And I think these are probably, yeah, 6 years old, fairly new. How old is the unit that you're evaluating?
10.
10 years old?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, when you have such strong demand, what do you guys think as far as pricing goes? Do you think that you'll have activity enough to get it sold in a reasonable amount of time?
I don't like the days on market that I'm seeing on this page.
Yeah. They're a little longer than we see in single family homes, right?
Yeah.
It all depends, Mark, on the complex and how fast they're moving.
right? That's going to make
Yeah.
a difference too, right? We have the 7 that are active on the market. 3 are on the same complex. They're just over 1 million. Only 1 under 1 million active.
Yeah.
I'd probably say this one on Lee Place is probably going to sell pretty quick. I would probably before the others. It's probably the next to pop. Unless there's something seriously wrong with it.
Yeah.
Look like it,
Oh, looks nice.
right?
Yep.
We can analyze what's been sold, but we don't want to, if we go sold, it's going to go back forever, right? So we just take back 3 months. Just go from 7/22, 15 3-bedroom units are sold. Days on markets on these doesn't seem too bad.
No.
A little bit better, yeah?
Yeah.
Just kind of take a representative here. I mean, list price under 1.2. They had to go down a little bit. They were on the market for a month. These guys got over list price. They were on the market for 10 days. These guys got list price in 2 days. They got a good preemptive offer, 50 grand over in a day.
Yeah.
No, it looks like that $1 million spot is like the sweet spot right there. And I'd say you have enough demand to not worry too much about being underpriced. What do you guys think? And even if you listed it under 1 million, I think there's enough demand to pull it over 1 million to wherever I think it needs to be, right?
Yes. Okay.
Any other? Did I cover
Yeah,
your
that's
questions?
great. That's
Okay.
very helpful. Thank you.
Does everybody understand how to pull some of these statistics, like some of the statistics that Alan shared with regards to the information, active pendings or situations in an area? Pull up some nice graphs. Now, if you look in the stats section on the MLS listings, they have some interesting presets that you can use to do some analysis, if you will. You want to see what's going on, sales price over time. You just want to specify the areas that you want to analyze. All right, so let's go. We're on 95131. We can stick to that for an example. And if we wanted to do residential property, we can specify condos, single family homes. We can specify what we want, or we can do it all. See what comes up. All right, beginning of this year looked pretty good as far as average sale price. Over the last year, declined a little bit. Then we had that pandemic hit, right? And then we're kind of coming up out of it. And I think as we're coming into the end of the year, you know, this year is it's an anomaly, as we did have this break. I think kind of shifted our calendar this year. I think one slot to the forward. So what used to be our kind of lull coming, what we're supposed to expect at the end of the year, I think we're going to get our summer hit at the end of the year because of the way everything shifted. So if you guys are game for working, I think there'll be plenty of work for us plenty of opportunities to get in the way of buyers and sellers over the next 3 months, because they're definitely in the marketplace. I think that the interest rates are really the drivers. And, you know, we've had conversations with people and they say, well, you know, we're waiting for these prices to drop. We're waiting for the prices to drop. And what they don't sometimes realize is, you know what? The prices did drop. The affordability dropped about 25%. Last year, interest rates were around 4%. This year, interest rates are around 3%. Yeah, it's a 1% difference, but 1% when we're talking in the 3s and 4s is a lot. It's 25% of the overall. So the prices did drop. They dropped 25%. That's why we have a blue light on with the interest rate. And everyone's fluttering to that and driving the market as it is now. I'm seeing a lot less cash in the marketplace. It's there, but there's a lot more finance offers coming through. People are taking advantage of the economics of the markets. And I think those that are going to be loving life in about 10 years, because they'll have a 2 to 3% interest rate, and everyone else's interest rate will probably double that. The affordability of their homes is going to be incredible. It could cause a problem with people not willing to sell them. They'll have a lot of rentals. It kind of amplifies the power of home ownership as well. So when you own the home, you're in control, and you have that flexibility. So let's see here. A variety of different reports you can run to educate your consumers about the market in that area. But the most ones that I stick to is the actives to pending ratios, and then just the simple breakdowns in the geographic area. And just try to get as close as you can to your subject property in terms of size, bedrooms and bathroom count, and geographic area is going to be very, very important. And it's, you know, you have to kind of know the micro market, because all of San Jose is not the same. Even all of Sunnyvale is not the same. You know, 94089 is a lot different than 94087. And, you know, you have to understand, and you can run those numbers and you can see. Does anyone have any questions?
Oh, you answered mine. Thank you.
Anyone have any other specific kind of scenarios you want to talk about? Any stats you want pulled or any other information?
Hey, Mark, this is Donna. How are you?
Doing well, Donna.
Hey, question, and actually just wanted to get everyone's opinion on this. For clients that, you know, at one point were interested in, you know, homes out in, you know, the Los Gatos Mountains, Saratoga Hills, just because, you know, per square foot, it's a little bit cheaper and you get more space. Now with, you know, the wildfires and the climate change, how do we as agents try to continue to maybe convince them that it is safe out there to live, and to reassure them that, you know, it's still, you get more bang for your buck out, you know, in the mountains? What kind of strategies do you suggest?
Well, I mean, you look at the history of the area. I mean, we are dealing with what do we call them? Environmental factors that are, well, I guess some beyond our control, but some are within our control. But nevertheless, we do have information available to us regarding statistics of previous seasons, if you will, right? So we have natural hazard disclosures, which are going to disclose whether the property fits in a fault zone, a flood zone, and they also disclose the fire severity zones too. So the natural hazard disclosure will give you some insight whether you're in an area that could be more prone. And even if you are, it's not the end of the world. It's just you have to take extra measures to protect your property against fire. You know, obviously, if you have a shake roof, you're not going to have a shake roof anymore if it's built recently. But, you know, some properties still up in the mountains were built 50, 40, 50, 60 years ago. So they might. So just keep those things in mind. You're probably going to have to change that to be more fire protected, if you will. But if we're talking about fire specifically and our Los Gatos Mountain specifically, I think we had, for the first time that I can remember, was this year where we really had a major issue. So it's tough to speculate out moving forward, but I mean, people that live in California are already ready to take on some inherent environmental risks, right? We have these earthquakes. We've always had them. They've always been there. The fault zones have always been there. And we're all through those Los Gatos Mountains, by the way, and people don't seem to care.
Yeah, so one thing I did want to point out to this team is it is a fact that actually home insurance agencies are canceling contracts and not willing to provide insurance to Los Gatos Mountain homes because of the recent fires. So wanted to give everyone a heads up there.
Do you have a specific company, or do you know? Or
Let me think. If I can recall correctly, and I can look it up and reply back to confirm. But I'm pretty sure it's State Farm, Allstate, and possibly Geico as well. But let me run back through my old notes and confirm with you, Mark, so you can share that with the team.
Yeah, Donna, that's one gauge. That's one gauge. If the insurance companies aren't insuring them, it's definitely a concern. There's somebody out there that will, but
Always.
Yeah. At a premium though.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know, has
FEMA an assigned risk pool?
I'm sorry, Mark, I missed that.
I'm sorry, the worst case scenario is that there is an assigned risk pool for homeowners insurance. So for those folks that, you know, can't otherwise obtain insurance for whatever reasons, like maybe they have a bunch of claims, insurance companies don't want to touch them, but they still need to buy homeowners insurance because they have a loan or whatever. There is an assigned risk pool that forces them onto an insurance company, but at a very high rate. Yeah, the rate is probably good 4 or 5x. But homeowners insurance rates in general is something that I've been forewarned about for the whole state. That they've been saying that they're going to start to go up significantly, although I haven't personally seen it yet.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Mark, I have a question. This
Yes,
is Wang. All right. You can see the lot of 1 mil above the market is very hot. And how can we kind of check the market or get the market estimate to be high enough to match of what we heard, what we experience right now, to serve the customer right? Because the home's so good and so much more. But how, if we do comps, some of them may not close, right? How can we address that?
Well, you know, not everything closes all the time, of course, right? But as far as addressing how hot the market is, you know, the active to pending ratio is a great gauge to let you know. And that's going to determine, you know, how you can move forward. There's some areas in Cambrian and Campbell right now where they have 8 or 9 pending and only 1 or 2 active. So in those areas, you know that market is ridiculously hot. You're probably going to get, if you're listed at or maybe 5% below market, there's a good chance you'll get double-digit offers because of that ratio. Indicates a greater level of demand for that specific area. Call the agents that are pending and talk to them. A lot of them, especially if they did a good job, are anxious to brag. And if contingencies are removed, they'll let you know where those stand. And a lot of those agents will, and I share when people ask, you know, if people care to ask what the offer breakdown, not exactly what the numbers were, but, you know, if they say, hey, how many offers did you get? Can you kind of give me an indication? You know, a lot of people will break it down for you to give you an understanding of who's in the game for the next available house, right? So you can have a better chance at the next one. Say, oh yeah, the best one was $1.7 million, and we had 4 or 5s around $1.5 million and 2 or 3 at list price.
Grace, if I may jump in.
That way you kind of know. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, Grace, I think Mark said it kind of cut out a little bit, but when you have so much activity, the pending homes are your key data points. So if you can call the pending, that's the one you know, the most recent, because the comps from you run are a month or 2 old, right? So let's say you call the pending and go, yep, I had, you know, similar house, had 28 offers. Okay, then now you know you probably have at least 20 people to deal with that are going to go to the next one, right? So possibly more, but you know, there's always some drop off. then and you know whatever it sold for that number, most of those buyers all know what it sold for. So if the house is the same, they might push that number right on the next one. So that's how you have to kind of, unfortunately, the last one's going to push the next one, and the same group is going to go, most of them, and it's going to be almost never ending. So in that scenario, you got to win early, because otherwise prices are just going to keep going up. And you don't want to be the last one to win, right? Out of 20 some odd people. If you can just get it now, get it done. A loan agent once said to me, and I thought it was marketing, but actually it's not. She says, today's overbid might be tomorrow's bargain. And it's actually a smart thing. And it's true. I mean, it seems awful right now, but if you're still in the market 6 months from now and those 20 people still haven't found a home, it's going to be bad, right? So try to talk to your clients and tell them, hey, today's overbid might be tomorrow's bargain, and not just using that as a sales pitch. It definitely happens.
You never know. How do you know? How do you know you got a good deal on the house that you bought? You don't know until the next house closes. Where you bought it is irrelevant. The next house, if it's from where you got a good deal. If the next house closes for less, you lose. You're negative. So, when some people start patting themselves on the back and say, hey, I got mine for 50 grand next to the last guy. Okay, pat yourself on the back for a couple of more days till the next guy closes and the bad news hits the fan.
Okay, thank you. I've been lost 3 buyers back to back, all in different price range, because it's not high enough. It's have to be non-contingency all way. Close fast.
Yeah, you want to be as strong as possible to win the multiple offer situation. If your clients are aggressive and comfortable,
Everything is multiple, 4 to 5 offers.
Yeah. And in those cases, I mean, you're really working off the top numbers. So if you're breaking down all the comparable sales, and you'll see the range, we saw the range right there in those condos between 1.1 and 900. Well, if the market is so hot, the 900 is not going to win. And we're looking at the very, very top, the 1.1 or above. And if you're in that situation as a listing agent and people are throwing preemptive offers at you, where your list price is irrelevant, and what their offer price did, if you really want to consider it, it has to be above the highest possible previous sale. If it's not there, then don't even talk to me. It's not even worth discussing. Irrelevant of where your offer is relative to others. The last one I did that had a situation where we had multiple offers, it was tough because there wasn't a lot of comps. And so we had to go in. The guys wanted to get it sold, so we went about what I thought 10% below market. But because it was so hot and so many people start coming so fast, it's like, wait till the offer date. Just wait till the offer date.
If your client needs contingencies, I mean, for whatever reason, right, it's going to be tough. And again, you have to keep them safe, right? That's your job. But if let's say they're a 10% down client, right, there's no way you can waive appraisal. There's no way their loan is still shaky, right? Then you should encourage them to stop fighting with people and buy a new home construction, or encourage them to go for a house that's been sitting for 30 days. That way they're not fighting, and they're just going to have to deal with it, because if they're going to go in with a contingency, again, it's our job to keep them safe. If it's not safe, don't do it, right? But if they can't do it, don't fight, because if you're fighting with 5 people, I tell you, most of them are going to be non-contingent. And if you're a listing agent, you're looking at 5 offers and 3 are non-contingent, you're not even going to look at the other 2, right? It's just, if you're on the selling side, like, understand that you have a job, right? So I think it's kind of shifting strategies on that. My plumber today said, Alan, I want to buy a house, 3.5% down, FHA loan. I'm going, yeah, we can do it, but let's not go fight with these people in Newark. Let's look for new home construction, right? That way it's you're even footing, right? As long as you get the house, they don't care how you fund it.
That's a great point, Alan. New home construction, it's a great source for easy deals. I know KB Homes and Communications Hill, we've had several transactions with those guys. Excellent to work with. Yeah, leverage those, because the competition right now in single family homes, even spreading out to Santa Cruz County. I have clients looking in Salinas area for rural places with property, and everything good's got multiple offers. It's going in a few days. So understand that. And it's the anomaly. I've never had Salinas have more demand than San Francisco. It's mind blowing, but it's true. It's true. Any other questions, guys? Any other concerns about the market? What's going on? We have a couple more minutes left. Any stats or scenarios that you guys would like to uncover?
So Mark, there's only one other thing I might want to add for Grace that I was thinking of. I had a client who really wanted a single family home, did not want to be in a condo, did not want to be in a townhouse. This was a year ago, and they needed the contingency. They just felt like they needed the comfort of the loan contingency and the appraisal contingency. But they felt like they had to be in a single family. So if we educate them to the fact that you might have to pay more, and maybe that's something that they're willing to do. This person was willing to do this because they wanted to be in a single family home. So it's a lot of what we do is about educating the client, understanding who we're sitting in front of, and educating them as to what game they're going to have to place, what kind of a strategy they're going to have in order to get into the home. So that's just another thought.
Yvette, are you saying that if you put more money, that it might entice them to just let you have your contingency if you're higher than everybody else?
Absolutely. I did have that situation happen, and they did go with us because we came up more.
Because it's worth it.
It was worth it to them. And let me tell you what, they look back on the price point now, and believe me, it's very well worth it. Because the other thing that I kept pointing out to them is, how many did we lose out on the last time? 10? Great. We're one of 10 looking in that pool. Every single week, you're going to be one of that much more people looking. So your competition is still going to be there. So you always have to look at how many people did you lose out against? How many people might be still looking in the market? Do you want that competition, or do you want to be rid of it?
If I may play devil's advocate, when I'm on the listing side and I see that, where I see a higher price, but contingency is open 1, 2, or 3, and it would have to be extremely material, because otherwise I will advise my client to go with the safer one. So it has to be material, though. I mean, something like, well, you know what, for $50K, yeah, I'll wait 5 days or 6 days, right?
Yeah.
25K or whatever that number is. But sometimes if it's 5, 7, I'm not sure I'm waiting for that. Right? It's not worth it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just pray I never come up against you. So the ones I've been coming up against, are willing to, angle with me and work with me on stuff. So that's great. You always have to try, right? You have to try whatever you need to try for your client. You don't want them overpaying. You want them to be okay with whatever they're choosing. But if we also have to be willing to play a little back and forth with the listing agent, if the listing agent is willing to, say you want to come down another 3 days, that's helpful to me. I just had to do that with Dave Clark, right? So,
to be clear, if any of you guys on this call and we're in the same office, of course, right? I mean, it's if I know you guys and you go, you know what, Alan, my client's good for it. They just need the peace of mind. And by the way, they'll come up an extra X amount to make it worth your seller's time to wait. I mean, that's not a bad argument, right? That's a very good argument. So I'm just playing. If I don't know who
you are.
If I don't know you and you're an agent I never worked with before, then I'm going to be a little nervous, right? To trust that.
Yeah, I got it.
Mind that, when we're talking about contingencies, that your markets too, right? If someone's asking for an appraisal and financing contingency and they're offering an astronomical dollar amount that's never going to happen, you should know that's never going to happen and be able to counsel your clients.
So true.
Absolutely.
All right. Very good. So are we good?
Yeah, a lot of value. Thank you everyone for coming. You guys are now leveled up as agents. A lot of good information.
Thank you everyone for joining us today.
Thank you.
Mark, thanks for letting me crash, Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks for crashing.
Thank you for hosting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to next week's Trick or Trunk event. That's going to be some fun, I think. How we pull that one off.
We have Warner Brothers hosting a trunk. How cool is that?
That is so cool.
I think we're going to have a line of people. Yeah. Get your business cards ready.
Woohoo!
Absolutely.
Get ready. It's gonna be so
All
fun.
right, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Take it easy.